We were on a self-driving tour through the remote areas of the western states when the accident happened. My boyfriend left me severely injured on the ground and drove off with his childhood sweetheart. When I woke up from surgery, I saw her post on social media. I just mentioned wanting to see the Starry Night concert, and he dropped everything to make it happen for me. Well, I was one of the things he dropped too. In the past, I would have called him, crying hysterically to prove my worth in his eyes. Now, I just lightly tapped the like button. Childhood sweethearts are the best match, be together. Chapter 1. 10 days later, on my birthday, just as I lit the candles, Tony rushed in. The wind from his entrance blew out my unspoken wish. He kicked off his shoes and sat down in front of me, tired, picking up a fork to dig into the cake. Mumbling through a mouthful, he complained. "This isn't from Mandy's shop, is it? It's awful." Mandy, or Amanda, his childhood sweetheart, runs a bakery. Her desserts and cakes are sickeningly sweet, not to my taste, but Tony loves them. Seeing my expressionless face, he suddenly realized. "What day is it today? Why the cake?" I couldn't be bothered to talk to the man I'd lived with for 6 years, so I got up to leave. He grabbed my hand, trying to please me. "Okay, it was just a joke. I know it's your birthday. I came back specially for it." Surprised? "Look, I even brought you a birthday gift." As he spoke, he took out 5 clear collection bottles from his suitcase, each filled with sand and various saline solutions. "The beautiful scenery of the western states you missed due to the accident, I brought it back for you." If I weren't the victim of that accident, if I hadn't seen Amanda's frequent social media updates, I might have been moved to tears. After the accident, he said he'd drop Amanda off and come back for me immediately. But from dawn to dusk in the desolate desert, he never returned. Just last night, Amanda complained on social media. If it weren't for Grandma's birthday, I could have stayed longer. I picked up the cake on the table and threw it into the trash. What a waste, a perfectly good birthday ruined. "Are you mad, Amy?" "No, just tired today, going to rest." Tony pulled back his hand awkwardly and went to the study with the collection bottles. "I'm going to put the beautiful scenery of the western states in the most prominent place at home, so we can see it whenever we look up." I buried my head under the covers, vaguely hearing a crashing sound before falling asleep. In the middle of the night, my phone rang, waking me. I'm a light sleeper, and since we got together, I set Tony's phone to do not disturb at night, with only important contacts allowed through. Barefoot, I followed the sound to the study, where Tony's charging phone displayed several missed calls and a new message from Amanda. "Tony, I'm so used to your company at night, now I can't sleep alone. I miss you." Before I could turn off the phone, Tony's angry voice came from behind. "What are you doing? Snooping through my phone?" He shoved me, and I fell to the ground in the dark. Sharp pain shot through my foot and hand, and I realized the floor was scattered with broken glass. Tony turned on the light, and where our joint photo used to be, he had placed the collection bottles. Our photo lay on the floor, the glass frame shattered. Blood flowed from my hand and foot, and Tony sighed loudly, impatiently getting dressed to take me to the hospital. As he opened the car door, I saw the front passenger seat was covered with a white plush seat cover. Tony looked at my bloody hands. "How about you sit in the back?" In the past, I would have made a scene to sit in the front and assert my place in his heart. Now, I silently got into the back seat. He looked a bit embarrassed. "Amy, don't overthink. I'm just worried about dirtying the seat cover. Amanda is hard to please, you know you're always understanding." I closed my eyes, enduring the pain, not responding. The car fell silent, filled with awkward tension. Tony glanced back at me several times, wanting to speak but hesitating. He probably noticed how different I was, no longer crying or causing a scene. He likely didn't realize that from the moment he left me at the accident site, I had decided to let him go. As the car left the garage, I noticed it had started raining heavily outside. The GPS voice was replaced with Amanda's affected, high-pitched voice, giving me goosebumps. When we were a kilometer from the hospital, Tony's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, hesitated, then answered. "Tony, there's a shadow outside my window. I think it's a bad guy. Come save me." Hanging up, Tony urgently pulled over. "There's less than a kilometer left. You can wait here or walk yourself. Amanda's in danger. I have to go." He left me standing in the rain and drove off without even leaving an umbrella. The heavy rain soaked me to the bone, my foot still in pain from the glass shards. Every step felt like walking on knives, the wounds reopening, blood mixing with rain, sapping my strength. After what felt like forever, I finally reached the hospital. The emergency doctor was exasperated. "Your foot is in such bad shape, and you walked in the rain? Do you want to lose it? Don't you know if it gets infected, it could be amputated?" I couldn't hold back my tears, not sure if from pain or frustration. Seeing my pitiful state, the doctor softened. "Don't worry, I'll treat your wounds and you'll be fine." Once my hands and feet were bandaged, I checked my phone. Amanda had updated her social media an hour ago, before I reached the hospital. Someone called me a silly girl, and they weren't wrong. I scared myself over a shadow, but my knight was there to protect me. By noon the next day, Tony returned as I was about to eat my brunch. Why aren't my suit and shirt ironed? Chapter 2. Early morning, I received a message from him. "I have an important meeting today, please iron my suit and shirt. I'll come home to change." In the past, his words were law to me, and I would follow them without question. Sometimes I even saw these tasks as signs of his love, happily doing anything for him. But now I'm tired. Whoever wants to can do it. My phone got waterlogged last night, it's at the repair shop. My phone was under my pillow, but I couldn't be bothered to respond. Hearing this, Tony paused, then pulled out a jewelry box and placed it in front of me. "Yesterday was your birthday. Since you didn't like the collection bottles, I got you a pearl necklace. Try it on?" As he approached, I instinctively leaned back. "No need, I don't wear jewelry. My skin is sensitive and jewelry often causes allergic reactions, so I rarely wear it. Besides, just an hour ago, I saw this necklace on Amanda's social media. A pearl necklace given as a bonus with a jade bracelet, clearly second rate, not fit for a princess like me. Threw it away. Turns out it ended up with me, as if I were a trash can. Tony persistently tried to put the necklace on me. In the struggle, the necklace broke, pearls scattering on the floor. Amanda was right, it was second rate. Tony finally lost patience, throwing the broken string on the ground and slumping on the sofa. "Amy, last night, I only made you walk a bit. Do you have to be so dramatic? You misunderstand. I'm not mad or crazy, I just don't like the necklace." Tony sneered, not taking me seriously. "Amy, you're 28, not 18. Stop acting like a jealous teenager, it's pathetic. Who else would put up with your tantrums besides me?" Since our 3rd year of marriage, he's been trying to convince me I'm an old woman, that I need him because no one else would want me. I used to believe it was his possessiveness, but now I see it as manipulation. Over the years, my confidence dwindled and my life revolved around him. Whenever he said this, I'd get scared and apologize. But now, I don't care. I'm 28, not 88. Who can tolerate my temper isn't up to you. If you don't believe me, we can test it. I turned to leave. Tony stubbornly followed. "Where are you going? My suit and shirt for the meeting haven't been ironed." I pressed the elevator button. "Work! Tony, can you handle your own stuff? It's annoying to keep bothering me." In our 6 years together, I used to cling to him, wanting him at every company event and friends gathering. He always refused impatiently. "Amy, can you handle your own stuff? It's annoying." Now I threw his words back at him, and he froze. The company organized a team building event. Despite my injuries, my colleagues insisted I join for fun. During the games, my phone kept ringing on the table. A colleague teased, Is it your partner? Worrying about you nonstop? No, just someone wanting to borrow money. I set my phone to silent and tossed it in my bag. Returning home, I was surprised to find Amanda there. Chapter 3. She was wearing my pajamas, lounging on the sofa, eating chips. Tony has a cleanliness obsession, especially hating me eating outside the dining area. When we first got together, he once got furious when I ate chips on the sofa while watching a show, crumbs falling into the cushions. He called in a cleaning crew immediately. The sofa isn't for eating. Don't you know it attracts bugs? Since then, I gave up snacks. But now, it seemed he only couldn't tolerate me. Amanda didn't even look up when I entered, sneering. Who stays out so late? Tony is too lenient with you. I laughed coldly. At least I come back to my own home. Never seen a good woman who spends the night half naked with a married man, sparking fires of passion? Amanda shot up, but when she saw Tony, freshly showered and wrapped in a towel, she teared up. Tony, maybe I should leave. Amy doesn't like me staying here. Tony's initial surprise at seeing me turned to a cold expression. Amy, Amanda's place had a leak. She's just staying here for the night. Why are you so harsh? Yeah, Tony and I grew up together. Are you being petty? Looking at this shameless pair, I raised my phone and snapped a few photos. Amy, stop being unreasonable. Delete the photos. Amanda's afraid to stay alone in a hotel. She's just here for one night. Can you not be so aggressive? I had no interest in arguing and turned to leave. Tony blocked my way. Where are you going so late? I looked up, smirking. What? Do you want a threesome? No thanks, I have standards. I shoved past him and booked a hotel room. The next morning, I was surprised to see Tony waiting in the lobby with breakfast. Amy, I stayed at this hotel too. I didn't. Ignoring him, I walked past. Whatever you did is your business. I'm late. I bought you breakfast. I've eaten. Give it to Amanda. My foot injury earned me a few days off, but I was out to meet a divorce lawyer. Chapter 4. After discussing with the lawyer, my friends were buzzing about summer travel destinations. Amanda posted a photo of a starry desert night. She wore an exotic princess outfit, while Tony was dressed as a prince. She lay comfortably on Tony's lap holding hands, gazing into each other's eyes. Wow, the starry night is beautiful, but not as much as you two. Childhood sweethearts love is the best, I want a childhood friend too. Compliments poured in until someone asked. Who took the photo? Was it Amy? She's so generous. The chat fell silent, then Tony called. Amy, He stammered. Don't misunderstand, it was just a staged photo. Oh, is that why you called? Aren't you mad? What's there to be mad about? Travel is about having fun. Tony went silent, then cautiously spoke. Tonight, there's a Norah Jones concert. You've always wanted to go. I got tickets. No thanks, I'm busy. But that evening, he showed up, insisting we go. When we first dated, I had a list of 100 things to do together, the first being a Norah Jones concert. But over the years, he always had work excuses. To end things properly, I reluctantly agreed. In the parking lot, I saw Amanda in the front seat. Amy, you don't mind me joining, right? I love Norah Jones. Tony got me tickets early. When you said you wanted to go, I had to get one from a scalper. Thank me? I glanced at Tony, who tried to explain. I opened the back door and got in. Thanks. How much? I'll transfer it. Amanda started to speak but was stopped by Tony. Enough, it's just a ticket. Do you need to announce it? Amanda teared up. Tony, you're yelling at me. Tony honked the horn in frustration. Go or don't, your choice. The drive was tense, Tony glancing back at me repeatedly. I closed my eyes, pretending to nap. The concert was great, but during audience interaction, the camera caught us. Amanda volunteered to go on stage, declaring her love. "Tony, remember that summer night kiss at 18? I've realized you're my true love. Tony, what about you?" The crowd cheered her bravery. Tony looked at me, guilt in his eyes, whispering, "Amy, I didn't know she'd do this. Amanda's prideful, I can't embarrass her in public, you." I smiled, patting his shoulder. "Go, she's waiting." Under the spotlight, they embraced, as if owning the world. But the nosy host handed me the mic. "You all came together, as witnesses to their love. Any words for them?" Chapter 5. Tony and Amanda were visibly panicked, their faces pale and speechless as they looked at me. I knew they were worried I might expose our relationship, which would make them the laughingstock of everyone present. "Well, I wish you both a lifetime of happiness together." The atmosphere reached its peak. I suddenly remembered a clause in the divorce agreement that needed amending, so I left amidst the commotion to go home and discuss it with my lawyer. By the time I finished freshening up and was ready for bed, Tony had returned, seething with anger. "Amy, couldn't you have said you were leaving early? Do you know I spent 2 hours looking for you inside?" I laughed coldly, suddenly recalling last summer when he took me and some friends camping. Halfway through, we ran out of charcoal, and he sent me to buy some. A rainstorm hit, causing a mudslide that buried our campsite. I begged and pleaded with everyone I could find, digging with my bare hands for a day and a night until I collapsed from exhaustion, losing a pregnancy in the process. Unbeknownst to me, they had packed up and left shortly after I went down the mountain. "You tried to dig through a mudslide with your bare hands? How naive! And you couldn't have told me you were leaving?" He had sneered back then. "Please, we're all adults, free to come and go as we please. Do I need to report every time I take a dump? Please, we're all adults, free to come and go as we please." I threw his own words back at him. "Amy, what's with this attitude? Please, I'm just concerned about you. How can you be so indifferent? If you keep this up, there's no point in us continuing." Our relationship had always been unequal. I loved him deeply, but he was always distant. In 6 years of marriage, every argument ended the same way. He'd mention divorce, and I'd break down and surrender. But this time, I didn't give in. I looked at him coldly. "I agree." Chapter 6. Tony looked at me in disbelief, as if he'd misheard. "What did you say? What do you mean you agree?" I looked at him calmly. "Exactly what you think. You said there's no point in us continuing. I agree, so let's get divorced." He was silent for a long time, then looked me up and down, pointing at me. "You, wanting to divorce me? Please, Amy, you're pushing 30, not 18. Stop being so childish. You're an older woman now. Who else would want you if you leave me? I'm too tired to play these soap opera games with you." I handed him the drafted divorce agreement. "Look it over. If it's fine, sign it quickly." He skimmed it, his face growing darker, then suddenly tore it up. "Amy, I can't believe you're so good at acting, trying to retreat to advance. Don't hurt yourself with your schemes." Tony kicked over a chair and stormed out. For the next 10 days, Tony didn't come home or respond to my calls about the divorce. Then one day, a stranger called. "Are you Tony's family? He has acute gastroenteritis and needs to be admitted to the hospital. Please come sign the paperwork." I was preparing for a presentation and hastily gave them Amanda's number. During my 1-hour presentation, I received dozens of missed calls from Tony. That night, I came home to find Tony, who should have been in the hospital, curled up on the sofa. Seeing me, he played the victim, seemingly forgetting we were getting divorced. "Honey, I feel terrible." In over 6 years of marriage, he rarely called me honey, usually using my full name. "If you're sick, go to the hospital. I'm not a doctor." He lowered his eyes, hiding his emotions. Exhausted from the day, I had no energy to deal with him. I quickly fell asleep after washing up. The next morning, Tony was gone. I had an appointment with my lawyer, Mr. Clark, to discuss the next steps if Tony continued to delay the divorce. Mr. Clark, or Clark Johnson, was a college friend helping me out of goodwill. I chose a French restaurant to thank him with a meal. To my surprise, I saw Tony in a suit and Amanda in a white wedding dress there. Chapter 7. In the lavish restaurant, guests gathered around an open space. On the open space, Tony knelt with a diamond ring. Opposite him, Amanda, in a white wedding dress, looked shy and happy. These two couldn't wait. I silently took out my phone and recorded the scene. The crowd jostled and someone pushed me forward. Tony saw me and hurried over, flustered. "Amy, what are you doing here?" Seeing me eyeing his clothes, he pointed to Amanda, then back to me. "Amy, it's not what you think." Amanda, holding her skirt, walked over with a fake smile. "Amy, are you that eager?" I looked at her, noticing the jade Buddha necklace she wore. Tony's grandmother gave me that necklace at our wedding, saying it was blessed and passed down through the family. I thought I lost it and felt guilty for a long time. Tony had scolded me back then. "Can't even keep track of things. What good are you? That's a family heirloom. If you don't want to be a part of this family, plenty of others do. Sure enough, here's someone eager to take my place." "Amy, don't misunderstand. I just asked Amanda to help rehearse." Amanda shot me a resentful look, unable to lose her temper in front of the crowd, gritting her teeth. "Yes, Tony said you never wore a wedding dress, so he wanted to surprise you. He asked me to stand in as the bride for a rehearsal. Amy, you wouldn't be so petty, would you?" I smiled indifferently. "Not at all. The dress suits you." Amanda, unable to provoke me, touched her jade Buddha necklace. "But this Buddha isn't just for rehearsal. Tony gave it to me long ago." Tony looked at me in panic, gripping my hand tightly. "Amanda was sick last year. This Buddha is blessed, so just a pendant. If she likes it, she can have it. I don't want it anymore." "I don't even want you. Why would I care about a pendant?" "I have an appointment. You two continue." Amanda grabbed my hand, feigning fear. "Amy, you're not mad, are you?" I placed her hand in Tony's. "Where were we? Oh right, he was about to propose. Continue. I truly wish you a lifetime of happiness together. Lock each other down so you can't harm anyone else." I turned and left, feeling nothing. Tony chased after me, his eyes filled with panic. "Amy, it's not what you think. There's nothing between Amanda and me. That's your business, not mine. Amy, you can't just assume the worst. I was just rehearsing with her. Our 7th wedding anniversary is coming up. I wanted to surprise you. When we got married, my grandmother passed away. You never got to wear a wedding dress. I wanted to make it up to you. I've been putting so much effort." The surrounding onlookers were moved by Tony's sincerity, whispering and pointing at me. If I had a husband like that, I'd worship him. This woman is so ungrateful. Such a good husband and she doesn't appreciate him. At that moment, Clark arrived. "Amy, you're early." All eyes turned to us. Amanda, seeing an opportunity, ran over, righteously accusing me. "Amy, Tony is working so hard to make up for the wedding, and you're here cheating?" Tony's face darkened, pointing at Clark angrily. "Amy, we're not even divorced yet, and you're already seeing someone else?" I looked at the two hypocrites, feeling utterly bored. Before I could explain, Tony had already swung at Clark. Slap! I slapped Tony hard. "Are you awake now? If you want your dirty laundry aired, I'll oblige." Tony grew nervous, trying to deflect. "Amy, let's talk at home." I shook off his hand, standing before everyone. "Yes, I'm Tony's wife. We've been married nearly 7 years. And this woman in the wedding dress is his childhood sweetheart. You call him a good husband? Who forgets his wife's birthday but remembers his sweetheart's cycle? We planned a camping trip, but they left without a word, leaving me to dig through a mudslide for a day and a night. After a car accident, he left his injured wife in the wilderness because his sweetheart didn't want to miss a concert. In the pouring rain, I was injured, and he abandoned me halfway because she was scared to be alone. If this is your idea of a good husband, I hope your husbands are just like him. As I spoke, the crowd's view of Tony and Amanda shifted. They grew visibly anxious. Amy, I only did it because Amanda is young and needs care. I didn't mean. Someone pulled up a video of Amanda's heartfelt public confession at the concert and played it on the restaurant's big screen. I saw this video and cried for their childhood love. How disgusting. Seriously, knowing he's married and publicly confessing. Homewrecker much. This guy's disgusting too. He knew her feelings and still rehearsed a wedding? What's his game? Perfect match of scum and tea, and they dare accuse her? I took the divorce agreement from Clark and slapped it onto Tony's face. I'm out. You two can have your epic love story. If you don't agree, this gentleman is my lawyer. See you in court. Chapter 10. After leaving, Tony bombarded me with calls as if making up for nearly 7 years of neglect. When I didn't answer, he sent long voice messages, which I ignored. When I love, I give my all. But once I'm done, you're nothing to me. Tony and I met in a fairy tale manner. During a low point in my career, I traveled alone to a foreign city. My phone was snatched by a cyclist. A man chased the thief down, tackling him to the ground. That man was Tony. It was just a travel mishap, a brief encounter. 3 days later, it rained at a scenic spot. Few taxis were available, and we fought for the same one. It's you. It's you. Years later, I still remember our shared smile and the joy. I thought it was fate, defying my parents to move to his city. We had no wedding, no blessings, just embraced under the winter sun. I imagined us growing old together. But times change, and so do people. While Tony delayed the divorce, I visited my hometown. My parents alternated between scolding me for my stubbornness and cursing Tony. One night, Tony knocked on my door. He held 999 roses, kneeling before my parents, begging for another chance. He returned the jade Buddha, placing it before me. Amy, you're my grandmother's chosen granddaughter-in-law. I'll marry no one but you. He showed me his car photos. I threw out Amanda's things. The passenger seat is only for you. He even had a cake flown in. I know you don't like Amanda's cakes, so I got your favorite. He tried to make up for all his wrongs at once. See, he knew all along. He knew my feelings but pretended not to. Tony, why bother? Even if you lay your heart before me, it won't heal the hurt. He camped at my door daily, trying to see or speak to me. Fed up, I sent Amanda a photo of him. Amanda arrived quickly. They staged a melodramatic scene at my door. Tony, Amy doesn't want you. Why can't you look at me? Tony resisted her touch, shaking his head. I've always loved Amy. You're just a sister to me. Amanda, teary-eyed and hysterical. Bull! Remember that night in the desert? You said I gave you joy and passion. We were wild till dawn. Is that sibling love? What a revelation. Thankfully, we'd been sleeping separately since my return. Otherwise, I'd be disgusted. Amanda, desperate, played her last card. Tony, I'm pregnant. It's yours. Peace returned outside my door. I expected Tony to agree to the divorce soon, but instead, the hospital called. Tony and Amanda had a car accident. Amanda didn't survive, but Tony was taken to the hospital by a good Samaritan. I suddenly remembered last summer, when Amanda returned from abroad and Tony invited me camping. Seeing the mud-covered campsite, I was filled with grief and despair. I dug through the mud with my bare hands, imagining countless scenarios. Back then, our relationship was good. I thought if Tony died, I couldn't live either. When I learned he was safe, I was upset he hadn't told me but relieved he was alive. This summer's trip, I wanted a guide, but Amanda insisted against it. Tony and I can drive. Why waste money on a guide? Such a spendthrift. In the remote area, Amanda, newly licensed, insisted on driving. The car hit a mound and rolled, throwing me out. I lay there, unable to move. They confirmed each other's safety, and Amanda urged, "We'll miss the entry time if we wait for rescue. Tony, take me to Echoing Sand Mountain first, okay?" Tony stood over me, looking down. "Amy, you can't move. I'll take Amanda and call an ambulance." He wasn't asking, just informing, then they left. The scorching sun baked me from dawn to dusk. In the desolate desert, my phone signal was spotty. Desperately, I called Tony repeatedly. In my desperation, what was I thinking? If I died, would Tony feel guilty or relieved? In the end, I prayed. If I survived, I would leave Tony and live for myself. A kind driver found me and took me to the hospital. That night, my back ached, keeping me awake, while they spent a wild night in the desert tent. This is what they mean by human sorrow is not shared. I turned off my phone. Tony's fate was no longer my concern, as mine had never been his. 3 months later, Tony called, asking me to our former home to discuss the divorce. It felt like a lifetime had passed. The once clean home was now littered with empty bottles and takeout containers. Tony's face was disfigured and he limped. He threw the bottles of sand and saline into the trash. Kneeling before me, crying. Leaving the registry office, he trailed behind, his voice hoarse. "Amy, I'm sorry." I looked up at the sun and walked away. Not every sorry can be forgiven. You don't deserve it. The wall has been hit, the story forgotten. We need never meet again. The end.